Chapter 523. Kishir's red eyes were unwaveringly calm. It naturally evoked the memory of the day of the party when he had answered without any hesitation before the Emperor about who he had danced with. Facing that familiar yet strange face once again, the Empress studied him quietly with utmost scrutiny. Kishir Lahore, who she had thought she knew well, was as complex internally as he was radiant externally. There was always a trace of exhaustion and self mockery in his eyes. Perhaps it was the physical limitations that even his power could not overcome, and the challenging circumstances around him that even his extraordinary abilities struggled to navigate that had shaped him this way. But the calm he exhibited now was different from before, when even impurities seemed to sink deep into an unfathomable lake. Here was a man who, in planning and executing any scheme, never easily offered full trust or confidence, now showing steadfast belief towards a single person. It was as if he were a fortress that had never crumbled despite facing the withering of 1,000 years. I am a living witness who has seen up close how Baron Ale has toppled what was considered impossible, he began. I can swear without a shadow of a lie, having tested the possibility of success with my own body. Please, Your Highness, trust him as you would trust me. ... And please offer your assistance. The Empress remained silent for a long time. Finally, when she spoke again, her eyes were slightly moist. I assume you already know that His Majesty broke years of seclusion to emerge for the cavalry, and that it was solely for the Duke. It seems he has already excluded himself from the future plans, contemplating ways to leave more for the Duke and the cavalry. The Empress encapsulated the deepest thoughts of the Emperor more profoundly than Kishir could. Among those plans is appointing the Duke as the Crown Prince based on the strength that the cavalry will gain. Are you aware of this? Crown Prince Kishir. Since returning from the West, the Emperor's actions clearly indicated that he was strengthening the cavalry and Kishir. But Crown Prince, it was a startling revelation, something that could never have happened in a previous life. Yudhir involuntarily turned his gaze towards Kishir. The man, showing no trace of a smile, quietly responded. This is the first time I have heard of it, but aren't your majesties the one who know best that I have long been Duke Paleta? Knowing doesn't mean we can just let go and surrender. Although it might be impossible by imperial law, His Majesty has been searching for a way to make it happen for quite some time, and I did not stop him. ... After our child left us and His Majesty became as he is, the Duke became the only remaining precious hope for both of us. We searched everywhere to heal His Majesty and were prepared to do anything. But if achieving that carries the risk of losing our last remaining hope, it's not a decision anyone can make easily. I understand more deeply than anyone why His Majesty hesitated. Under normal circumstances, Yudhir would have rejected the hope presented just as the Emperor had. However, the look in the Empress's eyes, her heart, spoke a different truth. The Duke really is not afraid of anything, is he? Though she didn't explicitly say what the fear was, the multiple meanings contained in her voice was clear. And what about you, Baron Ale? Do you feel the same? Her gaze now shifted to Yudhir. Yudhir wasn't afraid of striving to save the Emperor. There was no need to be afraid of things that obviously needed to be done. Dancing with Kishir or any potential consequences of that held no meaning for him. Even if the Emperor and Empress couldn't trust him in the end and sought to distance him from the cavalry and Kishir, it would be the same. Gender, social status, and the immediate opposition and skepticism couldn't deter Yudhir's intentions. However, if there was something that might qualify as fear for him, it was the concern that some problems might arise for Kishir or during the process. And that sole exception seemed already to know what Yudir was thinking, quietly sending him a gaze. Detaching his eyes from Kishir, Yudir spoke first. Your Majesty, I fully understand your concerns. However, knowing that I have the power to help His Majesty the Emperor, I do not wish to step back out of fear. You're that confident, even though this has never been achieved before? You're not afraid of what comes after a potential failure? The Empress added weight to her voice for the first time. The atmosphere grew so intense that most people would instantly back off. But Yudir was not the least bit intimidated by the vexation she seemed to deliberately project. Yes, if I have to be blunt, the regret of not even trying would be a far greater regret for me. The Empress's eyes flickered. Yudir met her gaze directly as he spoke. This is not boasting. I am confident that no one can do better than me in matters related to the power of the Awakener. Even if you find my words inadequate, please believe just that. It's the most solid proof I can offer to your Majesty. ... Please give us a chance. Yes, I shared the same sentiment. Finally, Kishir quietly agreed with a smile. The Empress let out a breath that seemed like a sigh. The tension left her eyes and a sad smile adorned her face. You are someone who makes all the worries before meeting you meaningless. ... All right, I will help. The Empress finally promised her assistance. She seemed stronger than anyone else as she pledged to provide an opportunity for treating the Emperor despite not holding significant political or social influence. I will make sure the opportunity you need, Baron, will be provided. Until then, Duke, please prepare with Baron to make sure this precious endeavor doesn't fail. If you need anything for the preparations, feel free to ask. And before the final trial, please pay a visit here so I can also directly experience the process and results. Isn't that a risky suggestion? Just receiving your help would be enough to incur great wrath. Adding a trial on top of it would make me more afraid of the consequences, to be honest. Kishir slightly furrowed his brows as he smiled. However, the Empress did not smile back. Of course, the risk is not yours alone to bear. I won't send you to His Majesty without verifying the process myself. Yes, understood. At Yudir's reply, the Empress nodded. I'm glad you are certain, Baron Ale. Now I see why the Duke values you so much. ... I trust you. The Empress promised to persuade the Emperor as soon as possible. Before leaving, Yudir planned to demonstrate his method of enhancing internal energy using the power of the red stone in front of Kishir and her. In the middle of the reception room, from which even the maids had been sent away, Kishir lay down comfortably and Yudir sat in front of him, placing his hand above Kishir's abdomen. As he took off his gloves, the deep red veins on his hands briefly startled the Empress, but she quickly composed herself. I can sense the energy of the Awakener within a person by touching them. After becoming accustomed to the power of the red stone, I was able to go further and manipulate the energy. After briefly explaining, Yudir closed his eyes. A moment later, his palms warmed, and he felt the presence of the Awakener energy within Kishir's body, protecting him as he always had. Taking a deep breath, he began to draw upon the power of the red stone to unlock Kishir's internal energy. As he did, energy flowed out of him, and a soft breeze began to circulate, sweat forming on his forehead. Moments later, an array of colored energy emerged above Kishir. Do you see? Is this really? The Empress could hardly continue her sentence as she stayed in awe at the spectacle before her.